Hear me okay? Good. All right.
Okay, awesome. So you can hear me?
Yeah. Just trying to get these to work. I don't know. I can hear everything for you except when I'm actually doing a debate. So we got to figure that out.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
Alrighty then. So we're doing the motion that assuming we could accurately assess the impact of beauty, that we should tax individuals based on their beauty. I'll be arguing the pro for this. So I'll firstly start with some setup. This is a motion that would occur in generally progressive tax systems. So we're talking about places like America or Australia. And it would just be like an extra thing on top of it. So we already tax you based on your wealth. We're also going to tax you based on your beauty as well. What does this kind of taxing look like? Why do we need to tax this type of thing? Often individuals with beauty get unearned advantages. For example, more likely to get a job or like free stuff or discounts and stuff like that. These are unearned economic advantages, and those are the things that would be taxed for. And the amount by which you would be taxed would be equal to the amount that you unfairly gained. So say, for example, you unfairly gained a coffee for free because you were very attractive, you'd be taxed $2.50 extra or however expensive the coffee was. Does that seem like a reasonable interpretation of the tax to you?
Well, I mean, it's completely unreasonable to tax people like that, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, it's not an unfair interpretation of the motion. All right. So I'll make two arguments, then I'll pass over to you, and then we'll go back to a back and forth. So the two arguments I'm going to make are, firstly, why this is a just imposition to take money away from people for this reason, and secondly, why this is a helpful imposition and how that improves society. So the first is why this is just. The fundamental reasoning for tax comes for two systems. The first system is to help the government and society prosper and continue, given that the government has funds and then they can reinvest it on infrastructure. That's not the thing I'm going to be acting on here. The second reason for tax, and the reason for tax that I'm using, is that it's used as an equalizer in a lot of cases. Not a total equalizer, but an equalizer in many ways. For example, and importantly, equalizing for things that you did not deserve. So, for example, we tax things like prize money from the lotto. Like you paid money for the ticket, which is why we don't tax you 100% for it. But a lot of it comes from unearned effort. Therefore, we tax quite a large majority of lotto winnings. Similarly, with inheritance, you didn't fully earn the money your parents gave to you, but you did have a relationship to them. Thus, we don't tax you fully, but we tax you part way. Similarly, we should tax you for your beauty. That's something that is unearned. Why is beauty unearned? Often it comes from, firstly, genetic factors. So, for example, those who have bilateral symmetry in their face are seen to be more attractive than those who do not have that bilateral symmetry, and there's almost nothing you can do to change that. Secondly, the allocation of beauty is generally arbitrary. That is to say, one, women often benefit more from their beauty than men benefit from their beauty. So that is a level of arbitrariness that should be changed. Secondly, if you're living in a culture that values beauty, for example, like a conservative community versus a non-conservative community, the conservative community is less likely to value it, but the less conservative community is more likely to value it. Therefore, and it's arbitrary where you're living because you don't choose where you're born. That means that we should correct for that arbitrariness. And thirdly, it's often applied in sexist ways or racist ways rather. So, for example, in dominant white communities, black or non-white people are seen as less attractive than white people. People can have their preferences, but those preferences are arbitrary, and the government should account for those things. Importantly, even though you control your beauty... did you have a quick question?
I can wait till you're finished. I just had a question about this, the very last point that you just made.
About race?
Not about race, about the idea that beauty is going to be inconsistently judged. If we're able to measure it enough to tax it, then it would assume that beauty would be consistently judged, that saying the same person would be beautiful in every community because they would have X number of beauty points or whatever.
No. So the motion is the impact of beauty. So someone could be beautiful in a dominant white community if they're a white person, but less beautiful if they're non-white, versus in a dominant Asian community or black community, the reverse may be true. So we're assessing the impact of that thing, not the objective beauty points itself. Does that make sense?
Sure, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. So the final part of this point is that people often don't control their beauty. So even though you can go to the gym and you can work out and put on makeup and buy expensive clothes and stuff like that, those things don't fully account for the way in which beauty works for a couple of reasons. One, a lot of people don't have time or the capacity or the money to do those things, which means that it's a very small subsect of society that gets to control their beauty in that way. And secondly, the majority of beauty is genetic, which things that you can't change unless you get like invasive surgery to change like the symmetry of your face. So it seems unreasonable for that to be a standard for my opponent to stand by. So those are the reasons why it's a just imposition, because you can't control it, because it's arbitrary and it's something you did not earn. So how does this benefit society? I think the first thing is that this is an increase in tax that would be redistributed to non-attractive people or just people who are disadvantaged in some other way, in the same way that we use taxes right now. So just like more net money to use tax for. Secondly, it stops, it changes the way we conceive of beauty and beauty norms. Right now, it's seen as reasonable to discriminate against people based upon their beauty. That is unlikely to occur under this system, because beautiful people don't want to be taxed more, and people who are in positions of power don't want to be seen as discriminating in favor of beautiful people. Now we have an objective system which assesses that discrimination that's less likely to occur because people don't want to be perceived in that way. And finally, it means that less beautiful people or people who are disadvantaged are more likely to be hired, are less likely to be discriminated against because of that norm change. And even if they still are discriminated against, that discrimination is kind of like righted with like you right the wrong with the additional cash that they're going to get in supplements or something like that from the redistribution of that tax funding. So that's the case I've got. I'll pass over you to make a case and some rebuttals.
Okay, good. So we're arguing here that beauty can be assessed, the impact of beauty can be assessed, and my opponent, or you're making the argument that the individual who is beautiful should be taxed. I'm going to make a counter argument. I'm not going to say, let's just assume for the fact that the impact of beauty can be measured, and that I'm going to, for shits and giggles, make the argument that there should still be a tax, but the tax should be on the beholder of the beauty. So instead of taking the tax away from the beautiful individual because they gain some advantage, by giving that advantage, I'm going to argue that the institution, the individual, the barista who gave the discount to the beautiful person, I'm going to argue that it is them who should be taxed, because, as my opponent made, the beauty is arbitrary and changes from point to point, from culture to culture, from community to community. So the only way, we're going to actually be able to make an impact on whether or not people will stop giving beautiful people benefits is by taxing the people giving the benefit, not the beautiful person. I'm going to justify this. I'm going to say that it's justified to tax those who give benefits to beautiful people, because the beautiful person, as my opponent pointed out, is beautiful because of something that they could not control. Their genetics make them beautiful. Their culture that they live in, they don't choose, and at least in their youth, to live in a certain culture. They don't choose their genetics. They don't choose their parents. They don't choose the society they live in. It is unfair to tax someone for something that they did not have a part in acquiring. As my opponent mentioned earlier, taxing somebody for playing the lotto, you're going to take half their winnings. But you get to keep half. You get to keep half because you actually you worked and you did something. You made an effort. So you can make, but when you don't even make an effort, when it's just who you are, then taxing somebody, it is unjust to taxing the individual who's beautiful just for being beautiful. It's like taxing somebody just because of the fact that they happen to be black, or taxing somebody just because they happen to be white. It's nothing that they can control. It's not something that they can change. They can't change the fact that somebody thinks they're beautiful and they're going to give them a discount. So it is unjust to tax the beautiful individual. It is just to tax the beholder. It is just to tax the beholder because that individual is deciding to give that person an advantage. The barista may charge somebody $3.50 instead of $5 for a Coke because they think they're beautiful. I guess baristas don't do Cokes, but baristas do coffees. So that individual who's beautiful may not even know the regular prices of the coffee is $5. They only pay their $3.50. They may not be aware that they're even getting a benefit. And then if you're going to try and tax them on the benefit that they weren't even aware that they were getting, they couldn't even refuse it. However, the person giving the discount does know what the normal charge is aware of the discount they're giving. So it is going to be easy to tax them. And in order to curb that by taxing them, so basically they'll give the discount to the individual. They'll lose the money there. They'll be taxed equally, except how my opponent, I keep calling you my opponent.
My name's Liam.
Yeah, Liam. How Liam described it, okay? To tax it equal to the advantage that they gave them. So I'm going to say it's just because now they're having a double. Whatever the benefit they're giving someone, they're also losing that. They're losing twice. So they're losing double. Of course, people who like money aren't going to keep doing that just because someone is beautiful. So that's why it's just. And the benefit, again, for the society, I'm going to just mirror my opponent's benefits by taxing the people who are giving discounts to the beautiful person. By taxing them, there are more people who are not beautiful that give people who are beautiful discounts, that there's going to be more money in the coffers. The same access that he was talking about, the same change to the access is going to be I forget exactly how you phrase it, but the idea is that the discrimination is still going to disappear because the people who give the discounts are then going to be punished, are going to stop giving the discounts. And because of that, just like in my opponent's plan, the less beautiful people will no longer be discriminated against, but for different reasons. We actually are taxing the people who are guilty of a negative action or giving a discount to somebody based on something that they had no control over, not for working hard, not for being a good person, or simply because they like the way they look. So just like we tax people on any sort of luxury goods, if someone wants to observe beautiful people and give them treats, let's tax them. So that's my case.
Yeah, awesome. That's really clever. I think that's very funny. Just before I respond, I've got one quick question.
Sure.
So just so we're clear, the fact that people benefit from something unjust, for example, beauty, is something you object to. You think that should stop, right? So we agree that the problem exists and we're just disagreeing on how to fix it.
I don't so much agree that people should benefit for something that I think that other people are not benefiting from it, if that makes sense. If other people are paying more because they lack some quality that they can't control, it's not that I blame the person for getting handed the discounts. I mean, I don't think that that's wrong, but I think it's wrong that the individual who's giving the discounts gives it only to one person over another. I think that's just straight discrimination. And okay. Just like, yeah. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. So I'm going to respond in two ways. I'll firstly argue that the system that you propose is one that will still have this discrimination existing and that discrimination will be worse. And secondly, I'll argue how this is not unjust to the people that I'm taxing. So firstly, why does your system still have discrimination and why does it make it worse? What you're doing is targeting the person who is giving the discount, but that person is still likely going to give discounts. Firstly, types of people who have lots of money are invariant on taxes. So for example, if you're a rich business owner who owns a very profitable coffee shop, you're still going to give those taxes because you see there's some value in the beauty, so that you're going to do it anyway. Secondly, a lot of the time these discounts exist because they think it's for the chance of having sex or the chance of a date. And we know that people pay lots of money for sex, not just in terms of prostitutes, but in like the value you give up when you're in a long-term relationship. That identifies that there are still going to be people discriminating under your side, but now they're going to be worse. Why is it going to be worse? Because the people who are doing it are going to be the richer versions, the one who are invariant in terms of tax. And as a function of that, they're still going to discriminate, but they're going to discriminate against like the like a higher level, so to speak, like the most perfect beauty that they see. Now, that's going to be seen as something that's more exceptionally desirable because people are willing to incur a harm in order to value that person. That means beauty norms are actually significantly worse under your side of the house because that level of beauty is still valued and isn't affected because of the state. Secondly, you still get the unjust occurrence of people getting valued and benefiting from their beauty, of which you agreed there was no personal investment or there was some arbitrary characteristic which allowed that to occur. So that means that not only do you make it worse, but the problem still exists and you're allowing that injustice to still occur. The second way I'm going to respond to your case is to identify that this is not unjust to the person who's doing it. The claim that you make is that there is people didn't control that they were beautiful. You agree with me, and therefore it's unfair to tax them. I want to make it very, very clear. I'm not taxing them more than that which they got unjustly. If you think about it this way, say there's a base level for an ugly person like me, and then there's a more beautiful person who gets a benefit. I'm not taxing them below that level. I'm taxing them to that level and removing the injustice that they got, that the unfit benefit that they got as a result of that unfairness. And importantly, I can do this accurately because the motion assumes that we can. So to summarize, one, I'm not imposing on someone. I'm just removing them down to the level that everyone else is for a genetic thing that they did not choose. And secondly, you make the problem worse and it doesn't go away. What do you think?
Well, I think you're wrong.
Well, I mean, obviously we both think each other's wrong.
Okay, so here's why I'm going to start. I'm going to break down your responses to my case here. You made the point here that the rich don't care, okay, because they're already rich. I would say that when you start taking the rich person's money, they do care. I mean, that's why they're rich, is they have money. Second, you made the point that if it's for a chance for sex, people are willing to spend lots of money. But I would argue here that this is just a false point. I think this is just a wrong premise. Most people will give advantages to beautiful people, not because they truly believe that there's an opportunity for sex. Maybe that's just to enjoy flirting or however. So to respond to that, and also to respond to your claim that there's going to be more discrimination. If you have let me finish responding to this, and then I'll respond to your second point about there being more discrimination. First off, rich people do care about money, and so even if they're going to be taxed to the amount of discount they got, then they will care about that, because again, they gave a discount, so they lost money there, and then they are getting taxed that same amount. So the individual who is beautiful, doesn't have the choice to decline in every case, to decline the discount. Because they don't have the choice to decline it, then any person who thinks they're beautiful can, without worry, give them a discount. Hate to keep using the same example, but say you have the barista that gives a discount to the beautiful person. That's not their money that they're losing. The individual who is giving the discount, the beautiful woman gains a discount, so she's going to lose the $1.50. The individual who gave it did not lose anything. The business itself did lose it to the business owner, who may or may not have been the barista, loses the money there. So the business loses by your system, where in my system, I guess the business will still lose, but then it's the individual that does it. But when you have the beautiful person, every time they go, and if they get a discount regularly, so all those different people that do it, they're going to end up, the same beautiful person may eat 3 times a day and get a discount 3 times. So she's getting charged, she or he are getting charged 3 times, where those 3 individuals, nothing happens to them.
Yeah. Can I interrupt?
Sure.
Yeah, I agree that they don't choose to be beautiful and they don't have the opportunity to decline. That's very true. But I'm not taking anything away from them. If they were a normal person, they would eat 3 times a day and pay more for it. They've got like net money in the bank. I'm just removing that money that they should not have.
Okay, and they should not have because someone gave them a discount. Now, by saying should, maybe we should say would not have as opposed to should not have.
Yeah.
Sure. All right. So my second point to your response is going to come back to that, but let me skip to you said that my system would bring about more discrimination. You made the point that the people who are the richest are going to be, say, the most discerning. So they're going to give the greatest discounts to the most beautiful person. So if they are going to be taxed, if in my system the richest person will be taxed for giving the discount, so they're going to lose more money. So then they're going to be more discerning with who they're going to give the discounts to. So then the average beautiful person will no longer receive the discounts from those that you said that are the richest. So the only person who's going to receive the discounts would be the most beautiful person. So the average beautiful person will no longer receive as many discounts, so you'll get less tax money for the coffers, and only the most beautiful person will be taxed. So whereas before, under your system, the rich person will just give everybody a discount, and those people have to pay it in, so you're taking the money from there. So when you're making the argument that more people, it'll be worse, there'll be less overall discrimination because the discerning will only pick the most beautiful people. Do you agree with that?
No. If I give it, say I'm a barista and you're the beautiful person I'm giving a discount to. I say I really like beards. And look, it's $5 for a coffee. I would charge everyone else $5, but I charge you $3. So you've pocketed $2. Now you can think about it like this: is that you gave me $5 and then I gave you $2 change. So you can think about it like that. I'm just giving you some of my money that would have been mine. I decided to make it yours. You go home, you put that money in your bank account. It's not your money. It's money that I've unjustly given to you because of something you've unjustly gotten. So when in my system, the government comes along and takes that $2 away from you, it's not taking anything away from you that you otherwise would have had. So can you agree with me there that I'm not harming the beautiful person?
I mean, I would not agree with you that you're not harming the beautiful person. You made your primary point is that you want this tax to be an equalizer. Is that correct?
Equal to the benefit that you unjustly got, yes.
So you want fewer people then to be given, like your point that you focused on is that you want fewer people to be given to be unequally treated. That's the overall goal of this. So if you want fewer people to be unequally treated, then by making the person who's doing the unequal treatment more discerning, you're going to have the overall. So for instance, say you're a barista that really likes beards and you have 10 people to come in. You're going to give those 10 people some benefit, right? So that's going to be 10 people. Now, if you're being taxed as the barista for the benefit that you give, you may only pick the most beautiful, the person that has the best looking beard to give the discount to, because it's going to cost you, but you really like beards and you want to give them a difference. So of those 10, you may pick 1 or 2. So of the equalizer, more people are being treated equally under my plan than would be under your plan. So the person who is very beautiful or who has the best beard is still getting the discount, and then the government will come in and take that away. So you're equalizing it there, but the government will have to do less work because it keeps you from treating them unequally.
Yeah, So yeah, I agree. Your system. So my system also disincentivizes people from giving discounts, because the reason you give a discount is that you want the beautiful person to know that you're giving them a discount, and then they might reciprocate in some other way. So and given they no longer keep that discount, it is true. I also disincentivize. If I accept that your system disincentivizes more, so say I give you that, I think there's a really big associated harm with that, and that harm is that of the one or two people that are still chosen by the barista, people who who have so much money it doesn't matter. Like we for example, business owners that just throw money away and stuff like that. There are people who are invariant. That the harm that creates is that the people who are then valued because of that are the most beautiful, and they're seen as something that's even greater that you should aspire to be. And that reinforces beauty norms in a more pernicious way than my system, which breaks down those beauty norms because it says that beauty should not be valued. Your system says beauty can be valued as long as you're willing to pay for it. So do you see the difference there?
I mean, I see the difference that you're trying to make. I mean, I don't see that yours is, I see the difference. I don't think that your system is necessarily better, because every time that, would you say that a tax on something that someone can't control is a just tax? You would argue that. So I'm saying that if a person is beautiful and they've got.
Well, a tax on something that someone can't control and they get a benefit for it. For example, I wouldn't tax people who get cancer. You know what I mean?
So just for a clarification, before I move on here to your next point, for a clarification, then you would say that an individual only be able to have money for the benefit they get if they're spending money at a restaurant per se. So say something normally costs $10 and they pay $8. So you would take that $2,
yes.
Right?
Yes.
So that's the only time. So when a person gets another benefit for being beautiful. Now we could calculate the benefit when the person doesn't pay any money, when the beautiful person doesn't pay any money. So there's no change getting in for a service that maybe doesn't actually charge. So say an individual, for a quick example, we could think someone goes in for an oil change. Now they get the full service. Each person gets the full service. They pay the same amount of money. So the individual, but when the person's wiping the windows of the beautiful person, they take extra care. So they maybe get the service cost the same. They could take extra care for every single person. It's no extra money that's being spent. Every individual they get their windshield washes, but say someone does a better job because that person's more beautiful. So then you're going to calculate that, okay, well, instead of the $50 oil change and service, this person actually got one worth $65 because they did more. They took more care in making sure the tires were rotated, or they just did more effort and because the person was beautiful. So now all of a sudden, each person is paid the same amount of money. Now there's a $15 that the government will come in and take extra from the beautiful person. Now, the beautiful person didn't ask for the extra service. The beautiful person may not even know that the extra service was done. But if you're going to be able to say that we can accurately assess the impact of beauty, then that's going to be an impact that's going to be negative for the beautiful person for no reason, or that they're not going to be expected. They get no extra benefit of it. They're getting more money taken away for a service they would have declined if they even know that they had it. Does that point I'm making, did that come across clear?
Yeah, that's a really clever point. Let me have a think. I think firstly is that, so just to put it in more general terms, a service that they are provided that they can't decline and they still get the benefit from, but would rather not have had. I think there's a couple of responses. The first response is that obviously this isn't true for an oil change or having your windows clean. But say, for example, you get like, I don't know, you're buying a set of tables and chairs and you get a free tablecloth. You can always give that tablecloth back. So we're only talking about the niche circumstance of something that's irrevocable. For example, extra oil in your car. I think there's a couple of ways to deal with that. I think the first thing is that if you go and ask for a service and then the service you get is not that which you wanted, you can sue that person. So and even if that service is better than what you wanted, you're allowed to sue for it under the status quo. I would expect that people are allowed to should be allowed to sue people for enforcing this extra cost upon them. But I want to stress, I think that's a very rare circumstance. I think a lot of the time you would be able to either A, know that you're willing to pay for that anyway. For example, the $5 coffee, you're willing to part with $5, or return the service, for example, the tablecloth. It's only in a very niche set of circumstances that suing would have to occur. So I think it's exceptionally clever. I don't think it's very far-reaching. Secondly, even if whoever's watching this debate doesn't believe that it is niche and they think it is a really common thing that occurs, even if someone thinks that, I think you've got to compare that to the massive beauty norms harm that I pointed out before, because the system Mad Mike proposes is something that's like a very, very harmful in the sense that there is a high level of beauty that is to be achieved. And if you achieve that beauty, people are willing to harm themselves to give you extra money, give you extra services. For example, the claim that Mad Mike makes before is that people are discerning with their money and they don't want to spend it. Or I mean, people still buy things like fast food, even though there's taxes associated with it. Another good one's alcohol. It's like not like, I mean, obviously alcoholics do, but just normal people will without that addiction will still buy alcohol, even though they know it's more expensive because there's a tax imposed on the government for it. So I don't think that the money argument in terms of making decisions is actually that impactful. And the final thing I want to say is that even if there are circumstances in which someone gets forced into it without otherwise wanting it, that's still something that occurs under your side of the house as well. Businesses would still force, services that someone didn't want under your side of the house. They would still unjustly benefit from it, and they would probably not want to benefit from it in the context in which there is a normative change. So that harm still occurs to you as well.
Okay, just to build on that previous point I was making, I don't think it's as rare as you would think. I think you could even go so far to say that beautiful people will get better service at a restaurant for paying the same amount for the meal. So I would say that anytime you have a service industry involved where there's a face-to-face communication, that if somebody is more beautiful, if the only negative is going to come against the beautiful person and not the person that's actually acting, then they're not going to have, the person who's acting, the waiter, is not going to have any incentive not to treat this beautiful person better, because any punishment that comes across is going to come from the beautiful person. Now, your solution to that was that, okay, well, if that person gets charged extra, then they can sue for that. Now, I'm not sure how easy it is to sue somebody. Maybe it's super easy.
Yeah,
but
it's super easy. You do small claims court. No lawyers.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you had 30 people do this to you over the course of the month because you went to 30 different restaurants and you've been charged $5 extra by the government. So now the beautiful individual, just because they're beautiful, in order to get their money back, has to go to 30 different court cases against a different proponent. So anytime that they are given anything in their any benefit because they're beautiful, that they get extra taken out, they'll have to go to court. So this seems unjust to that person because all they're doing is existing. So that beautiful person will stop going out to restaurants. It's going to lower their quality of life. So taxes, you're talking about making this a great equalizer. So what it'll do is make beautiful people become Hermans. Now,
I figured out the response. Okay.
All right.
So one, I want to question how much extra I don't think that, what does a better waiter service look like? I mean, do they get your food to you a little bit faster, a little bit nicer to you? I mean, that's like 10 cents. It's really unclear how big that is. But assuming, let's say, for example, it's $5 and $5 is meaningful to this person. What that is an impact of beauty. It's, you know what I mean? Because the motion says that we can accurately assess beauty. I would just then go, okay, this is an impact of beauty you didn't consent to. Here is, you would get you would get returned that money that you would otherwise be taken away for a service you did not consent to and had no option to remove from. But for every other service, for example, the coffee that you consented to or the tablecloth you didn't return, you would be taxed for. So actually, I think the current system solves for that completely and doesn't have the harms of what I said about your case earlier.
Doesn't have the harms because you're assuming that you'll be able to accurately assess the impact of beauty to the point that you'll be able to discern if they didn't buy something extra, then they will have that automatically returned to them, like at the end of the year as a refund, I guess.
The motion assumes it. So assuming that we could accurately assess. So you've got to make a leap of logic for the debate to occur. But
sure. Kind of like I don't think, that doesn't seem feasible, even assuming that you can accurately assess the impact of beauty. And you're saying that we should tax those influences based on the impact of beauty. To say that then we should then not tax them because of some beauty impact that they have seems to go against that. But we'll go on. You're saying that.
Well, I can explain it in a different way if you like.
Okay.
Sure. So this tax is used as like a redistributive thing to those people who are not beautiful. So say you take the benefit that a beautiful person got and you distribute it to non-beautiful people. So the equalizer thing that I spoke about, right? Okay. Now, you could otherwise explain that as a harm that non-beautiful people have accrued because they are not beautiful, something they can't control. Now, that is an awesome effect of beauty. You know, the effect of non-beauty is the harm. Similarly, the effect of having that beauty in the first place, in the circumstance in which you described, having to pay for something you didn't want to pay for, is a harm. And the motion presumes I can assess that, and thus I would redistribute funds in that way. Does that make sense? So I think it's reasonable.
I think it makes sense what you're saying now. All right, so now this is going to come down, in my opinion, to an idea of the most effective system. Mm-hmm. So in your system, if I understand you correctly, let's just we'll take the what you just explained. So we say you have the waiter who comes in and gives better service to beautiful people, which would mean if they're giving better service, that means they gave less good service to non-beautiful people.
Yes.
So you would take the money from the beautiful person and redistribute it to the poorer looking people, the less beautiful people, right?
Yeah.
So that's your system. Now my system, if you your system does not eliminate the problem. Hands down, it does not eliminate the problem. You have a reactive response to the discrimination that we're trying to eliminate. We want to equalize everyone. We're not equal. They're obviously still not equal. They're just being refunded to the point that they're, getting some more money. So they're not being treated equally. So if we actually care about them being treated equally at the service, then my system is clearly superior, because if the individual who is mistreating people, let's take the same waiter who gives better service to the beautiful person and then is charged for that, double charged for that, and then also charged for the negative service that he gave, or the worst part. So the money is going to come from him for, he's going to be charged for the benefit that he gave the beautiful person. Then he's also going to be charged for the poor treatment of the non-beautiful people. So that money for the redistribution is going to come from the individual. If the individual is going to be charged for mistreating several people when he's treating someone else that's beautiful better, he's going to immediately treat everybody the same, because that's going to cut down on his losses. So if our goal is to make everyone equal, to have them being treated equal in business establishments, then my plan seems to clearly make the individual who does the acting, if they're going to be punished for treating other people below a certain standard that they have for beautiful people, then if they're punished for that, they're going to immediately stop treating people differently, treat everybody the same, because that's going to be the most cost effective for them.
So let's talk in that same one on disincentives. Mm-hmm. The disincentive that I provide is that when you give a discount, you kind of want a reciprocal thing in response. Like you get the joy of flirting with them, or you get them to, they might come back to your shop, or you might get a first date, something like that. Now that disincentive goes away when the woman or the attractive person knows that this isn't actually a discount for them. They're going to suffer for it later. Therefore, they're not going to want it. They will return it. They'll return the service and stuff like that. So I have a disincentive as well, which means that there's less less discounts given on my side. Your disincentive is that it harms the person who's giving the discount, and thus that they won't want to do it. The problem is, under my side, almost all beautiful people don't want to be charged by the government extra, thus they won't accept the discount. Under your side, there are still some rich people who will still give discounts, and that means that the problem is that the people to whom they give discounts are valued very, very highly because they are seen as having a level of a beauty that is worth paying for, and that entrenches a beauty norm significantly more than what exists under my side or under the status quo. So even though there's both disincentives, your disincentive is weaker and creates a harm. So what do you think about that?
I don't think my disincentive is going to be weaker, because I think the point that you're missing is that you think that almost all beautiful people don't want to pay for benefits pay for later for benefits that they're getting now. I would say the same number of beautiful people like to be treated like they're beautiful and getting special favors as there are people who like to give favors to beautiful women. So the idea that there's going to be this massive group of people that'll like to give favors to beautiful women, I think the same number of people who care less about their money and more about just the joy of flirting is going to be equal or less than the people who enjoy being flirted with and getting some incentives. Is
it still flirting? Is it still flirting? Like to say I'm giving you the coffee and I'm paying you $2 the discount in order that you would spend time flirting with me. Is it still flirting if I'm actually not giving anything up? If that you're being paid, you're removing getting that money taken away later.
I mean, the same thing could be said from my position is if I'm flirting with you and I'm being doubly charged for it, isn't that more genuine than if I'm not going to flirt with you if I'm not going to be charged? I mean, that seems to me, if I can flirt with you and the difference is coming out of your pocket, I'm going to flirt with more people. Where if it's coming out of my pocket, I'm going to flirt with fewer people. So when I do flirt with somebody, it's more genuine. My attraction is more to them. If I have no negative coming from me, I might flirt with 10 people in a day. If it is a negative is mine, I might flirt with just the one person a day. Now,
no, I figured it out. I figured it out even more. Okay. So,
all right. Well, you got 3 minutes.
3 minutes. All right. So not only does my system take money away from the people who got it unjustly, for example, the $2 you got because of you were beautiful, but it doesn't return that money to the business. The business is still losing money because they're losing the $2 that they effectively gave in the form of a discount to the person. So my system actually also punishes the businesses, but now it incentivizes beautiful people to not get that benefit, which doesn't have that harm of the beauty norm you spoke about. So actually, my system does what your system wants and better, because it doesn't redistribute.
The only difference is that one business may serve 50 people a day and have one waiter who's really flirty. So that business is then lost. So it's bad for business. Your system is bad for the business, because that flirty waiter may flirt with 30 people. The business loses 30, or that discount that they give loses that. So the business doesn't get it back under your system, and the benefit the state still gets it. Well, under my system, the individual themselves who gives the discount is going to be charged. So this business still loses the same discount. So in each of our systems, business still loses the same. The individual himself is getting charged. So I
imagine the business, if the business is still losing, the business would just dock the pay of the flirty waiter.
Exactly. So then the flirty waitress, in order to keep their job, will stop doing that. And they'll also stop doing it because they're going to be disincentivized by the extra money that's getting taken out. So if they flirt with 30 people, they're getting 30 times the amount taken from them. That person's going to stop flirting so much. So then instead of 30 people they flirt with a day, they may flirt with 2. Businesses lose less money. The individual loses less money. The beautiful people, there's a fewer beautiful people that lose money. So under my system, 28 of the 30 people are all treated exactly the same. And so it is a true equalizer, where you don't see that under your system.
Well, in any case, no matter what people think, I think we have both very interesting systems, and it's not the way I saw the debate going. So thank you very much for that debate, Michael, and I hope to see you around in other debates.
Yeah, I don't know how it worked. I just thought, if he's going to pull this, then I'm going to try to come back with something unique. I hope it. I don't know how it worked out, but I hope it did.
I was very, very clever. I like it. All right, I'll see you around, man. Thanks.
See you. Take care. Bye.